Internet illnesses. Are there illnesses that exist solely because of a human's connection to the internet? Now, these obviously would fall under something like emotional illness or, mental illness. I know they don't call it that anymore, but I grew up with those terms. So I grew up in the system with those terms. So there's nothing we're going to do about that. However, what I have seen from human beings in the past 30 years, basically since the rise of the internet, and granted, I was very young prior to the internet, but the way I have seen people manage their behaviors in the past 30 years, it is not a positive thing. And I wonder if there will one day be very specific labels for the conditions humans are finding themselves in right now. Because, like, if you look at what the internet has done to people's perceptions of reality and each other, it all fosters this sense of irreality replacing reality, and it has a lot to do with what you interact with, is how you perceive the world. And people have this magical ability, to see anything they want, really, but what they fill their minds with is poison, essentially, and madness. The worst aspects. Now, that's not new. Humans are always drawn to the unfortunate and macabre, but the obsession that it takes on is new in a way. The way humans have just immersed themselves in it, especially Americans. Like, it has certainly not helped political dialogue in America. Um, if you look at the way people would act and talk in the 1980s when it came to politics, you still had talk radio and you had people that had bad attitudes. But now there is this hyper partisan irreality that each side will live in that will tell you that is the real world. And neither obviously is. But that does not prevent them from seeing it that way, in the secret knowledge they possess that you are blind to and a fool for not acknowledging. It's but a lot of men's interaction with women and a lot of the way women perceive men's interaction with them, you see this manifest in the gyms where, like, you have these girls who dress extraordinarily provocatively and then will always say, this guy's taking pictures of me, this guy's doing this guy, because that's their lens, that's the way they are seeing the world. And I mean, it's often evidenced in the way they're dressing, is of course, like, that's what you perceive the world as. I wonder, would they see things the same if they were dressing in an Amish fashion? Not saying that people should dress as Amish, but what I'm saying is their perception of the world is very much controlled by the things they are immersing themselves in. You have men who are shyer than ever, taking on many, many feminine traits to the point where, even myself starts to see it as unhealthy. And, I am not the in any way someone that is going to call themselves masculine and define themselves as such. But I did notice it when guys, like younger guys at work, started calling me masculine because I'll punch another dude in the face if he crosses a certain line, or just because I know how to work with tools. But like as far as what my life is, like I am into literature, I am into art, I am into expression, I am into discussion. These are all relatively passive and feminine things. It, I had no idea that video games is an identity now. Like there are people that consider themselves gamers, like the way you have people of a specific like political ideology consider themselves like communist or libertarian. They define themselves as a gamer. Like it's strange because like game to me meant like ready. Like this dude was a relatively tough guy. He was game. He was always on, and like that's kind of what I thought they meant at first. But then I found out they were only talking about video games. Like oh my, that's not good. That's not good at all. Like that is an actual like even further into the irreality. And yeah, I mean, I still play video games, but it bothers me every time I'm playing a game because I'm like, you're leveling up this character and you're wasting your own life by like building up this character. You should be building up something in yourself. I I had no idea that gamer was an actual like self definition, a way of viewing yourself now. I consider that probably a mistake. That's probably not going to lead to anything good. I mean, play video games. That's fine. Define yourself in it. I would say take a step back from that. It's anything that you use to define yourself should probably be of meaning or significance. And video games, albeit fun and distracting and an escape from life, I would do the same. I would say the same thing to a person that defined himself in their heroin use. Like, you probably shouldn't do that, buddy. Or even with marijuana, you have people that define themselves in their marijuana use, and that's not a good. It's not a sound base to something to define yourself in. I mean, you're not hurting anyone else, but I just mean for the individual, as far as for their well being, that is probably not a good self definition. But this is all the internet illnesses. And I really, I don't have this well formed as an idea yet, but I had nothing else to talk about at the moment. And I do think internet illnesses are a real thing, like illnesses that beset our mind because of our connection to the internet in this connectivity, as they call it. Like the human mind is not set up to be like that. And it is almost like the ability, like I used to think social media was almost like being able to hear someone's thoughts, because like you'd see like episodes of the Twilight Zone and stuff like that where a guy could hear people's thoughts and he'd start going insane most likely. uh, that has manifested in many ways with people in the social media where they think every post is about them. And because humans are self-centered, it's natural to see something and think it's about you, because your world quite literally revolves around you. Even if you're someone like me who takes great pains, so my world, I'm not the center of my world, but it's impossible to get away from. But the internet illness, I I need a better name as well, but I think this is a real thing, and I think the way the internet has affected humans' minds is largely detrimental. And I was starting to say it before, but I've said it in other videos about the whole masculinity crisis in America. Like, you see the guys that are claiming to be masculine, and many of them, there's specific podcasts I'm thinking of where they surround themselves with young women. And it's like, masculine guys don't surround themselves with young women. Like, arguably, some very powerful men would have a harem, yes, but they would not sit and interact with the harem as if they were equals. Like, these guys interact with those girls because they're the same thing. Like, they all go shopping, they all wear fancy clothes, they all go to salons, they all get their nails done. Like, they're all the same. It's not like they're out there breaking horses the other half of the day. They all do the same things. There's a word for that. Like, what that is a pimp. That's not like, even if you're not prostituting the girls, that is what a pimp does. He surrounds himself with young women and dominates them. But that's not what a masculine guy would do. A masculine guy is around other men because women soften you. Like, that's the way any masculine guy I've ever talked to has seen it. Women make you soft so you don't spend a lot of time around women. Even the ones that are married, they would always be outside or they would always be out of the house. That I, I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, I never considered myself very masculine. I always got along with those guys because they always considered me weird and strange and funny shit. And it's just fucking with people as people do. There's just a lot more different about me that they had to fuck with. And so I'd say shit back. It's nothing. Like, when you first meet someone, there might be some harsh words exchanged, but like, yeah, nothing extreme that would, they're just testing you. See whether you're willing to stand up for yourself. See if you're willing to let people walk on you. See how far you can go. You know, and like, that's the way you got to navigate that situation appropriately. And as soon as you show that you're not weak or a coward, you can usually, I've always gotten along with it. You know, dudes were always like, "What are you gonna go write in your diary?" Because I was always writing in notebooks because I like literature. But I see the blight of masculinity that is on YouTube and like men claiming to be masculine who live as women basically. It's like, wow, this is another one of them internet illnesses, I think. And I'm not sure. Maybe in America, masculinity is being bred out. I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think humans will ever escape nature. It is just, our beings have been this way for too long. There are things we can change about ourselves and improve about ourselves, but I think when you go too far away from the way things are, that you end up creating deep instability. And ultimately, I think that's what the internet is in itself. I think it is creating an extremely unstable world in America, and the irreality is meshing with actual reality, and people are trying to push their irreality onto everyone. And, you know, we'll see what comes of that. This has been long and rambling, and I'm going to shut the fuck up. But I will have a better idea of the internet illness in a couple days, and I'll do something on it again. But, internet illnesses, do they exist? Take it for what it's worth, I guess.